I drink and I know things. That's what I do.
Welcome back to Flagons and Dragons. I am one of your hosts, Jamie G. Esquire. Not the first, not the second, not the third, nor the fourth, the fifth. The official hand of the Honorable Mike Reardon, the finest judge in all of Kentucky.
So how is the judge treating you?
Did you know he wore a red Speedo under his gown?
That's always been the legend. Never had it confirmed until now.
Well, I appreciate you warning me.
I'm here at Magna Mills to discuss season 2, episode 5, House of the Dragon, titled Regent. Mills, what's up, buddy? Are you ready to talk about how they followed up last week's banger of an episode?
Yes, but I'd rather talk about Extreme Home Makeover, Harrenhal version. I think that would be super cool. I would be there for it. And thank you for being here for Flagons and Dragons, presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, on the social media at Dudes Watch Stuff. Nice and easy on the web at dudeswatchstuff.com. Simple to remember, just like the flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. All we ask, if you had fun, please hit the thumb, open up your flagon, and get ready to rock and roll.
Well, right now, I am making sure that you are 100% aware that there will be spoilers from this point forward. We could reference any aired episode of House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, you name it. We will try our best to avoid major spoilers from Fire and Blood, but there could be some references to the books. And if you don't know, now you know.
This is Regent, Season 2, Episode 5, the 15th overall episode of House of the Dragon. Originally aired July 15th, 2024. Directed by Claire Kilner. This is the 5th episode of House of the Dragon she's directed. She also directed Season 2, Episode 2, Rhaenyra the Cruel. Written by T. McKell. This is her first written by credit on Hot D after receiving a story editor credit in each of the first 5 episodes this season. We have no notable guest stars here. And the short plot synopsis is, with Aegon II on death's door, Alicent makes a play to be installed as regent, but is quickly passed over in favor of Aemond. The small folk of King's Landing are suffering from the blockade, and they grow even more restless after the head of Meleys is paraded through the streets. Aemond attempts to quell the situation by ordering the gates of the city to be shut. Jace defies Rhaenyra and flies to the Twins, where he gains the allegiance of the Freys. Rhaenyra asks Corlys to be her hand while plotting with Mysaria. Daemon is still experiencing hallucinations at Harrenhal, and his attempts at assembling an army continue to stall. In an effort to combat Vhagar, Rhaenyra and Jace contemplate seeking riders for their currently riderless dragons.
Well, let's get started with our overall thoughts on this one. Again, episode 5, titled Regent, season 2. Mills, for me, I don't want to use the word letdown, but I think it's so hard to follow up episode 4, which was one of my favorite episodes, maybe my favorite episode ever of House of the Dragon. So this one felt just like kind of the ultimate, just kind of like, let's try to get it set up and be ready for the stretch of final 3, episodes here down the stretch. It was okay. I liked certain moments of it. It's not that it was boring, but it's just not that a ton happened. So I think that it was a good episode. It moved the story along. Some key things, a couple moments here and there. Overall, more of kind of a chess piece type episode for me. How about you?
I would say pretty much the same thing. Unfortunately, this is a victim of the previous episodes, really the past couple episodes. This is a moment where you have to take time to breathe. Now that Aegon's at least incapacitated for now, you have to kind of rearrange the whole thing with the Regent here. So it all tracks and everything, and it's well done. It looks great. Everything pretty much makes sense. There are a few deviations from the book, but for the most part, all this stuff tracks. No problem with it, but this was always going to be kind of a little bit of a letdown. I think especially because I know where it's going. I'm like, all right, I can see the fireworks factory. Like, what's up? Can we step on a little bit here? No one needs to stop to pee at this point. So this was kind of, we had to hit the rest area before we get back on the interstate or what have you. Nothing wrong with that. You got to empty your bladder, get some fresh coffee, do what you got to do. We're going to get right back out of the road. And I think it's, a good setup for kind of the home stretch of the season here, because we're into the final 3 all of a sudden, just like that.
just like that. And it's not a surprise that we get a quiet episode, like we're saying here, following Rook's Rest. But let's talk about the fallout from that battle over King's Landing. I don't know about you, but Mills, I wish they hadn't shown the shot of Maylee's head in the teaser last week, right? It just didn't mean as much for me. In fact, the bigger thing was really just how the people of Flea Bottom reacted to it. Maybe that was the point.
Yeah, and I think it was really because that seems to be they don't quite get it, and it kind of they talked about this on the inside the episode a little bit too, that it kind of destroys some of the myth of the Targaryens and the dragon. You know, they're invincible. They're next to gods. They are better than regular people, and this kind of humanized them in a way that might make the small folk, you know, maybe more inclined to try to overthrow them or go at them. So my Mysaria said it was a screw up by Kristen Cole, and I think I would probably co-sign that. I honestly thought it maybe would have gone the other way, but let's be honest here. Especially these people are hungry. You know, we kind of get that with the whole the Hugh the blacksmith there. We get that plot line, Hugh the hammer, about, you know, his daughter, his poor daughter is like the wrong color. She is just like ash and gray. You know, the people want meat. I don't think they care who the king is right now. Whoever's going to get them meat, the king meat is probably the most popular, you know, polling option right now. If you were to go down to Flea Bottom, if I had to guess. How about you? I mean, we knew it was coming. It was still really cool. The dragon head looked good. It was all CGI, but, you know, everything else was pretty much practical. They showed a little bit of that in the behind the scenes. Definitely cool, but it would have been a cooler moment if you hadn't seen it coming, I think.
It definitely would have. And I'll tell you what, no way Otto Hightower would have ever have allowed such a thing, because he would have had the foresight to know this devalues and diminishes the strength of the Targaryen crest. And to your point, what people, common folk, small folk, view them as. So to me, definitely a mistake by Cole. It didn't have the same allure. I thought it was interesting just to see the sheer size of it, and I thought they did a good job capturing that. And again, kind of trying to tell the story of Aegon's, you know, fighting crusade that had success, even though it was an epic failure. So I think that was kind of interesting. But it didn't have that same wow moment because we saw it coming and we kind of knew it was. I was more interested in the fact that, like, wow, are they really transporting the king in just that box? Like they didn't have anything better than that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually reread these chapters today, and in the books, it's a covered litter. I don't know if that makes it a little bit better or worse, but the idea was, yeah, nobody could see him given the condition he's in. And we will talk about that in a minute. I guess we should mention here, we get the one shot that we saw in the original trailer with Aemond and Alicent. And up there, she kind of clocks that he's got the dagger now. You know, Chekhov's dagger that's eventually going to wind up in the hands of Arya Stark there. So I think she definitely starts thinking more about what actually happened when she sees that he has the dagger. And I think that kind of drives her actions a little bit throughout the episode. And to be honest with you, this probably wasn't really a victory, right? They're trying to claim it. And shout out Gwaine. Gwaine's like, yeah, strange victory if it was one. It really wasn't, right? The king is down and possibly down a dragon. Before we talk about the king, I can't really say anything about this part too much because I have a pretty good idea what's going on. What did you think based on what we heard about Sunfire, the king's dragon? Is he dead? Is he out of commission? What's the deal with anything?
You know, to me, it sounds like he, at best case scenario, is going to be kind of on the shelf for a little bit, right? I mean, he was clearly hurt, bleeding all over the place, took a nasty fall. Who knows what's broken there or wrong? To me, it sounds like he's not going to be back anytime soon, and that's, I think, his best case scenario.
I think that's a good reading of it. The way Cole says it, he makes it sound like he's very much injured, but doesn't, you know, outright confirm that he's dead, but nor does he say like, oh yeah, he's going to make it either. So I think they are trying to leave that somewhat ambiguous. In
many ways, like Aegon, correct? Like in many ways, it's kind of the same situation.
I was just going to ask you about Aegon here. Again, I don't want to say too much of the obvious stuff we see. That Valyrian armor is basically fused to his skin. And this is weird. You know, usually they go with the crazy sound effects that get you. Closed captioning got me. When the maester's taking one of the plates off, the closed captioning literally says pus squelching. I've never really been grossed out by the last time closed captioning this good was on Joe Millionaire a long time ago. And if you get that reference, really you should subscribe. Yeah, you will like what we do. Obviously, here he's got multiple broken bones and the shattered leg. It looked like he shattered his femur like clean, the whole thing. Possibly other internal injuries.
The leg break was pretty nasty, right? I mean, that was pretty gnarly. You could see that, and the way they just kind of tried to reset it. gross. And I'm standing there, and I thought one of the best parts about this scene, Mills, yeah, it was super gross and everything, but I thought one of the best things about this was just the look on Allison, right? I mean, and picture that. Picture standing there and seeing pure destruction and death's doorstep of a loved one. And you're like watching like the surgeons, usually they usher that person in the back. We don't get to see anything. Imagine being right there trying to see that. I don't know that the average person's equipped to handle that. I'm certainly not. It was pretty heavy, man.
Yeah, dude, shout out, yeah, Olivia Cook absolutely just killing it there. Again, they must cast from the face down, and not necessarily on the attractiveness of the face, but how good the face acting is. And Aegon is right there on death's door. Those are the Silent Sisters there. They're there to come in when the dead body is, the person's dead and it's time to deal with the corpse. That's what they're there for. So it's basically like having a priest there doing the last rites. Like this is, one step away, like literally a heartbeat from going over the edge. And like we mentioned, this kind of creates a vacuum now that you need a regent. Allison throws her hat forward. And I'm not going to lie, I honestly thought that she was going to at least put Otto's name up there, right? Because she had to know she wasn't get in. But when it comes down to it, it seems like she really thought she was going to get both Larry's and Kristen Cole to back her. And neither of them even really seemed to think about it. Did any of that kind of surprise you?
A little bit, but not totally. I think she, for the sake of the realm, she's clearly the best choice, and it's not even close. It surprised me some that like Cole really was just on this hit and run. Like he's okay with separating business from pleasure, and I think she thought she had him, and maybe this, maybe she tells him, well, I aborted your son or whatever, and just to try to get him back. But I thought it was wild. And with Laris, both of them did it without making eye contact with her. But Larry's was kind of the same way. He raised a good point though, Mills, that I thought was interesting, that how would we look anointing a woman when we're saying that Rhaenyra can't sit on the throne because she's a woman? So that was an interesting point. And everyone wanted Aemon there, which I think, not only is Alicent mad that she knows she's the best person, I think she's terrified of what Aemon has become.
Yeah, I wonder, do you think if she had suggested Otto, it would have had any chance of working? Probably not, right? Even if she had put him out there, maybe. I don't know that Larry's or Cole would have gone there. I definitely don't think Cole would have.
Cole's in bed with Aemon, and you kind of get that later in the episode. We'll get there, but he clearly, has his back and doesn't tell Alicent what really happened.
Yeah, well, we can really, get into that here. It's as good a place as any because you have basically two conversations between the two, right? You get the first one where, Kristen Cole, Jamie G, what does he do? The boy likes to polish his sword at all hours of the day. The man is just polishing his sword. And that's where you're right. I think she clocked the dagger on Aemon earlier. So she goes to Cole like, what really happened? And he just basically pleads the fifth. He doesn't lie, but he doesn't say. As far as we could tell, he didn't really know either, right? From where he was, he couldn't necessarily tell if Aemon tried to take him out of the dragon. They're that high in the sky. And then when he walks up, Aemon's kind of already walking away, right? So he really didn't know either. So I don't know what he could have said, really. He could have said what he suspected.
He left out a lot of important detail that, well, Aemon and I hatched a plan, and we were going to do this. And then Aegon showed up, messed it all up, was getting beat, and Aemon came, and Aegon ended up being collateral damage. That's what he could have said. Obviously, he doesn't want to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help.
See, I thought she was more going for the fact that he got the dagger, and for him to get that dagger, he had to get it off of Aegon's body. I think that's kind of what triggered her. So that's not even on the dragon fight. That has, when that kind of final scene that Cole saw him get that, maybe he could have said that. And to a certain extent, I think he was just being honest. I don't think he knows what was going on, and I think it's like don't ask, don't tell, right? He doesn't even want to think about it because that'll conflict with his role as hand and his Kingsguard and what he wants to do. The man definitely has conflicting loyalties right now. Which oaths do you follow? It's a very Game of Thrones thing. Like,
for sure.
Jamie Lannister went through the same thing. Like, which oaths? Like, you know what I mean? The one to the realm, the one to the king, the one to the seven, which one takes precedence, kind of. So I think there's definitely a bit of that going on here. And then in the final scene when they're outside, and she goes at him a little bit more, and I believe his answer. And he's like, dude, we need Aegon because this is a dragon war now. He's got the biggest dragon. That's how you roll. And I don't think he's wrong in that case. I would definitely, I'd like to combine that with Otto's knowledge and subtlety and gamesmanship and that kind of thing. But yeah, and especially too, if you're trying to get these small folk in line, Aegon's a pretty big deal with the big dragon. So I think it does make sense. I'll at least buy that.
Yeah, but I guess just to be devil's reject here a little bit, Mills, not to be difficult, but just to point another point of view here. One thing Allison said that really made sense during her pitch was he is best suited, he being Aemon, is best suited on the back of Vhagar fighting in war. We just saw what happened, risking, there's almost this major debate between both camps of the Targaryens about what would happen if the in this case, queen or king in Aemond went out to battle, right? Same thing's happening with Rhaenyra, where people are telling her, you mustn't go, but she really wants to. And then, you couple that with what we saw happen with Aegon, and it's almost like they're signing up to make the same exact mistake, because Aemond is not going to be temporarily sitting on the throne and not riding Vhagar into battle. So to me, that's kind of I think it's a little bit hypocritical on their part. It's like, did you not learn your lesson?
Oh, you are not wrong. And I think this is a case where this is Kristen Cole trying to have it both ways, too. Like, it makes sense for him to be kind of in command, but it also makes sense to have him in the field. And my honest take on that, without trying to say too much, is I would just expect Aemon to he's going to do whatever he wants, right? He's now pretty much the acting king with the biggest dragon. Who is going to stop him? You know what I mean? So I think he is just kind of unleashed at this point. So yes, he should probably not be going out as much like that. But do you really think this is going to stop him? Because it seems like he really wants to get it on with Daemon, right? And I mean this in a dragon fighting way. We have to be very careful on this show to really specify when we do the Mills Lane thing there, because he kind of takes over. He gets the ball thing. He gets in the king's chair. And what does he wait about all of a half a second before he's like, all right, here's what we're doing. Boom, boom, boom. Like, he was ready for this. They're having another meeting at dawn the next day. Like, and I'll give him credit. Cutting down the rat catchers was a good move.
Yes. I can't believe they're still up there. And, I'm proud. What a good boy. What a good little boy that puppy dog is. He deserves a new owner. I really want to see him.
Wonder what that rat catcher was feeding him, or maybe there's just no food around. I mean, everyone's going hungry. Wouldn't the dog probably be eating the people by now or something like that?
But I want that dog to be taken care of, buddy. He's a good boy.
And, we saw that with him closing the city gates, maybe not as good of a move. The small folk did not really seem to be impressed, especially Hugh the Hammer there. And his family, did that work for you? They're trying to kind of illustrate the plight of the small folk. Did you like that, or do you think it was a little bit of a waste of time to a certain extent?
They've been teasing it. I think it's okay. I don't want to see a ton of it. Don't get me wrong. I like Flea Bottom, and I like kind of exploring this world of what it's like for the small folk. I think it's working because it's, the show's done a good job of being able to not necessarily montage it, but give just like these brief like snapshots of kind of what's going on. They did this famously under the Lannister rule in Game of Thrones, where there was civil unrest and people were kind of panicking in the streets of Flea Bottom and stuff. And that's why the High Sept was born and all that. But like, I do think that they did a good job with this. I just don't want it to drag on much more than where it is.
Yeah, because unfortunately we do have an Alanis alert here, because Hugh's wife, she throws it down, right? Like, I'm leaving with the kid. You can stay here, wait for the king to pay you, or you can come with us. So he finally gives in, right? He's going to take his family to the gate, and he gets out, and he arrives there literally as they close the gate, dude. It's like 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife.
Tragic, really.
So I do feel bad I feel bad for the dude.
If they just would have left 5 minutes earlier, they could have made it out.
If he would have been fighting with his wife and just listened the first time, dude. I mean, isn't it ironic? Don't you think? Two other small, too ironic, maybe. I really do think. I really do think. And two other kind of small points here. One, at the one of the last things they say at the council is like, "Yo, we should holler at that Oscar Tully dude." So just a important thing to kind of throw out there. Like, it just if you keep hearing someone's name, maybe just to pay attention to it. And I also loved the shot of Aemon looking at the Iron Throne, and then you kind of pan back and you see Helena stand there. It wasn't worth the price. I thought that was a great moment, great shot.
Yeah, I thought it was too. And one thing that was pretty cool to me is that they made the throne look a little bit different than in Game of Thrones, and I really like that. It almost sits up a little bit. And I know from my investigative research in the book, and this isn't really a spoiler, but just an interesting fact. It's almost like this wine, like big thing that you got to go up and sit up on, and it's dangerous. It's meant to be a reminder that you're not supposed to sit at ease, all that. So I think it's pretty cool. But I love that shot in there in the Red Keep of him staring at it.
Yeah, in the books, it looks a lot more like they just made a giant pile of swords and a giant dragon just spit fire at it and they just hammered on it real quick. It is not nearly as well formed as it is in the show, but it is. They left kind of all the extra swords around it and everything. So yeah, and it looks a little bit different than the OG throne in Game of Thrones. I'm sure they renovated over the years, so that's fine.
Absolutely. Well, I think that does it for Team Green. Let's go ahead and switch sides and talk about Team Black, starting with the Utes.
Did you say Utes?
Mills, how would you feel if you were Jane Eyre? I mean, she was promised dragons and she got dragons, but I do not think this is what she had in mind. Am I right?
You are right. I think that is a pretty classic bait and switch, right? A nice line by Verena when she points out, like, look, you only asked for one dragon. We gave you two. Like we over delivered here. Yeah, if I was her, I would be a little upset because the idea she is, we want a dragon that can actually defend the place, right? But let's be honest here. One dragon probably wasn't going to be enough against Vhagar anyways. This isn't, a terrible deal. It's going to take a while for those dragons to grow, but they are isolated up there. They're pretty much safe from everything except Vhagar. And I do have to say that was an awesome shot of the year, right? When you kind of come up and you actually see it sitting out there. I thought that was just a great shot. I don't remember quite getting a shot like that ever in Game of Thrones. So I just thought that was really cool. And I like Lady Arryn too. She was maybe a little bit bitchy, but I get it. She's kind of not in the greatest spot. She's trying to make a deal. She didn't quite get what she wanted. So, I don't really blame her for being a little salty here. How about yourself?
Oh, I mean, I would be severely disappointed. It's like, yeah, technically it's a Toyota, but it's doesn't work, and it's a 1937.
Right, but it's a toy of the character Yoda from Star Wars. That's not exactly what I thought it was.
She definitely envisioned a large dragon flying around the Eyrie, making sure that she's protected at all times. So yeah, I think not going to say she got done dirty here, Mills, but she got a little bit done dirty.
Yeah, or maybe maybe they just have a master negotiator on their side. Let's go over to Rhaenyra's sister Baela before we get there. I did like the talk that she had with Rhaenyra about Rhaenys claiming Meleys. That's a little bit of a mouthful there, but that was cool. They talked about her like sneaking through the dragon pit and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was a nice kind of moment shared between the two.
Yeah, I thought so too, and I like that. That I thought it was just kind of a neat thing that this episode needed. I liked it.
And she also had a really great scene with Jace because Jace is going to go off and he's just going to go to Harrenhal, right? He's like, I'm going to talk to Daemon and I'm see what's up. And she's like, dude, you really think you're going to get through to Daemon? Shout out Baela, dude. Super smart. She doesn't just come at him that way, right? She's just like, come on, dude. Like she slowly kind of, let's think about this. Is this really the optimal move? But when he comes up with the idea to go to the phrase, I thought that made a lot of sense. And then she's cool with it, right? She's not trying to stop him or tattle on him or anything. She just helped him come up with a better plan and execute it. I thought it was just a really nice moment between the two and, showed some smarts on her part.
Absolutely. And I think, for her, this is the time where she needs to be doing that because, I mean, she's going to be best served, assuming Rhaenyra wins. Jace is going to take over, right? And so, I mean, she could be wifey material. She could be on the council. There's a lot that she could do. So I think this is important developments happening kind of at the early age here. And yeah, she's proven her worth, dude. I think we kind of need more of her. Rhaenyra doesn't have much around her. She could use all this.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Baela is just stuck being the main dragon person, right? Because no one else is allowed to leave, basically. But,
right.
We'll talk about that problem a little bit as we go on. But first, dude, we got to talk phrase. The two things I think most importantly right up front, great casting, right? Like the phrase are just supposed to be like the worst, and these actors are perfect, right? Playing the phrase, you can just immediately tell they're just kind of squirrely and they're looking to get one over, and they're just kind of the worst, right?
Yeah, they're terrible. They're sneaky. They're conniving. It's interesting because I think we all, coming from Game of Thrones, had the image of Frey in our head, right? Because of that epic scene with with the Revenge of Arya and all that. But I do think that this was a great casting. First of all, you want to talk about great shots. I thought this was an incredible shot on the bridge, literally the passing, right? The crossing. I thought this was just really cool.
Yeah, it really gave you some actual scale for the bridge, right? Again, this is the kind of stuff that I just don't think they had the time or the money to do in those earlier seasons, especially Game of Thrones. By the time you got to the end, they just had bigger fish to fry, so to speak. And did you understand the plan for the most part, what they were trying to do here? Like why he needed the phrase?
Yes. Yeah, and I think it makes a lot of sense, right? He gets control of that passage. That's everything. And we knew that was important even in Game of Thrones, right? With when Rob was marching and all that. So I mean, like, yeah, we definitely important thing.
Yeah, because that allows them a way to maybe not need Damon's army. If you can get the Greybeards from Stark down there, you're probably going to need more than that, but that lets them get down there way faster. So it kind of cuts out Damon a little bit. And dude, shout out Jace. This is like 3 for 3 now, right? Like he got the Aarons, he got the Stark, he got the phrase. And think about he doesn't know how bad Harrenhal is. Had he known when they asked for Harrenhal, it would have been hard for him not to like give away a tell to be like, oh God, yes, you can have Harrenhal, please. We'd pay you to take Harrenhal. God. You know what I mean? Like that's the greatest deal.
We'll throw in something. Yeah. I'll give you Harrenhal and a lifetime supply of wine. I mean, no, it's he has no idea, but I thought he played it so well. And yeah, I think he's definitely showing strength. And I like the development of Jace. I really do.
Yeah, I didn't think about it. He secured 3 alliances with like 2 baby dragons, a handshake, and a castle they don't even want. And just obtained for free, basically.
And he had a great line here where, I think the show's doing a great job of showing you just how terrible, like words traveling through the realm about Vagar, right? And how scary that is. He gets this great line where they're saying they're afraid of Vagar. And he's like,
our fear lies in Vagar.
You fear a dragon, leagues away, when mine own sits outside your walls.
Great line. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, he's like, just love the one you're with, right? Love the one that's right here, right now. And to the phrase credit, they are practical. And I like how he figured it out right away. When they kind of start to hedge a little bit, he just comes right to the chase. What do you want? Like, let's not beat around the bush here. Tell me what you're looking for. We're going to make this thing happen. So I think you got to let the boy cook right now. That's all I'm going to say about that. And then he gets the final scene with Rhaenyra. And did you understand what they were implying here?
Yes. Basically trying to figure out people that may still have that married off, that were born into that might still have a little bit of that Targaryen bloodline, because this was kind of a big thing that was let out that if you didn't read the books, you don't know, but they kind of just like casually let out the fact that they have like 2 monster dragons in Dragonstone unclaimed living under the castle. Like that's a huge piece of information. And like the fact that they're big enough to maybe rival Vagar, I think that's huge. So trying to find a dragon rider is obviously a good strategy. Crazy strategy, but a good one.
Yeah, that is the long and short of it. I don't know how, they make it sound like they're going to be going through all of the old ancestries is trying to track it down. Whereas in the books, it's more of a bastards thing. Like the Targaryens have tended to, go ahead and drop some seeds here or there. And that's what they're called. They're looking for the dragon seeds, basically. So it's not quite like, the Philadelphia Eagles holding open tryouts, but it's not like that either. There is a little bit of the gang getting invincible going on. And I'm kind of looking forward to that without trying to give away too much. And I really like
will a new Jon Snow emerge, Mills? Will House of Dragons Jon Snow character emerge?
I cannot comment on the presence of Doyle McSnow. I do not know if he will be in this one or not. Those McSnows are real tricky, man. They're out there with the Ponder Lannisters or whatever. They're fighting with them all the time. And I really like the parallels they drew between Jace and Rhaenyra, right? Because he's the same thing. He's been itching a whole season, like, yo, let me at him. Full on Scrappy Doo. And Rhaenyra's like, don't you think I feel like that too? Don't you think I want to be out there, like on my dragon, doing something instead of here yelling at all these people who are yelling at me and getting nothing done? Like, she's sick of writing, she's sick of doing all that. So I think on one level it was cool how proud she was of him, but on the other level, she's kind of like, well, if I'm not allowed to go anywhere, you're not allowed to go anywhere. Like, that's the whole thing with us. like you said, mentioned it with, with Aemon too. It's the gift and the curse a little bit of the dragon riders. Not enough of them.
Yeah, but I love that parallel between the two of them, and this coming off an episode where she basically, told him the story and right the song, and also kind of bonded over the fact that he's the unquestioned heir. So I thought this was kind of a cool development between the two of them as we continued on from last episode.
And if you had to guess, what do you think Lord Frey's name was?
I'm going to say Lord Frey's name was Franklin.
Not bad. His name's Forrest. Forrest Frey.
Forrest Frey, dude.
You were there with the alliteration. You were not off by
Franklin
much
Frey.
there.
Franklin's his brother, Well, let's move on to the adults over at the Double D's, Driftmark and Dragonstone. Mills, can you add any context for that final scene with Rhaenyra and Jace, or will that venture too far into spoiler territory?
I think you pretty much nailed it. Maybe they will spend more time going through those books, or maybe they'll just put out an open casting call. Remember, we heard the dude earlier in Flea Bottom talking about that, he was a Targaryen bastard. So I think all of that's going to kind of be in play here. I'm just curious as to see, will they kind of do it low key, or will it be an open casting call? And I think that pretty much does it for that conversation with Rhaenyra and Jace. How about the conversation with Rhaenyra and Mysaria? Again, it looks like she is choosing not to give Mysaria a seat at the council for one reason or another, but they send, I guess you call her a handmaid, Olinda, to King's Landing. We see her kind of get snuck in. She knocks on a door. Some lady opens it up. Any idea what's going on here?
I'm not sure, but I'm really excited to find out. I mean, I guess it's sowing seeds of distrust, right, within the small folk and within the people about what exactly is happening, and the fact that maybe Aegon's hurt or whatever it is. I think Mysaria is right in the fact that there's multiple ways to win a war, and I think right now Rhaenyra needs every option she has because she just simply doesn't have the manpower. She's reeling. And this is important. And I think she's keeping her kind of to herself because, for one, I think she's getting a temperature of her council, and she does not have control of the council the way she should. And I think adding somebody like Mysaria will just add to that fuel. So I think she's trying to take the road of, I will keep her to myself and seek her counsel because she listens, and I like the info she gives me. But I also need to try to make my council better, and I'm not going to add her on it because it will weaken it because they won't accept her, is really my take on it.
I like that. I think that is a very good take. Any idea what the actual plan is? Cards on the table, I don't really know this either. I don't know if there's a specific plan. Is she just there to be a spy, to infiltrate the Red Keep? Any thoughts on kind of what the more specific plan is, or just general espionage?
I think general espionage, but I think it's also has something to do with how can she disseminate information, right, and utilize her network of people to get that out. I don't know if this is a full-on info wars type, Cold War type situation with what they're trying to do here, in terms of maybe even just propaganda stuff. I don't know, but I think it has something to do with that.
And how about the idea that Rhaenyra is struggling with that she really isn't trained for this kind of, she was trained more in the art of statecraft and that kind of thing, knowing all of the various houses as opposed to warcraft or learning the art of war and fighting with swords and that kind of thing. She does have a dragon. She seems kind of willing to use it. I don't know if that's that big of a deal. Kind of any thoughts on that? And, I think that's what leads her probably to bring Corlys in as her hand, or at least ask him to, because he would offer some of that military strategy, right? I think she has the will, but she does not have probably the exact proper training you'd want for this.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's not necessarily for a civil war. I don't know that Abraham Lincoln didn't have the necessary training needed for a civil war, right? I mean, I don't think anybody does, and it haunted him until his dying day. I think that she is well-rounded, and to me, the right choice for the realm to sit on the Iron Throne, not just by tradition and by request, but also the right temperament. And that I do believe that with all my heart and soul. I do think she has somewhat of a plan, or somewhat of a point, in that she wasn't out swinging swords. She took a different approach growing up, right? And that was more common of females growing up, was the book smart and learning the history. That will help her. She just doesn't see it. I also think she's being really hard on herself right now because she's kind of hitting, she's kind of had 1, 2, 3 swings and a miss here, with Damon, and with waiting too long to act, and then losing Melee's and her most trusted senior advisor in Reyna. So I think she's reeling a little bit, and she's just feeling down on herself, which is totally normal.
I think that is right. Unless she was, just dominating right now, I think it would just be human nature to feel that you're someone. I mean, how do you really prepare for war unless you've been to, a lot of wars? And she mentioned that she's grown up in peacetime. So what she really needs, I think, is a wartime consigliere, right? Like Tom Hagen ain't gonna cut it here. Like you need some Sonny Corleone. I'm mixing up the Godfather metaphors a little bit, but you know what I mean. Like you need that. Maybe it's not Damon though. Maybe Damon is a little bit too much. I think the Sea Snake is the right choice here. I think that's a great scene with him and Bela because he is just kind of out, right? He definitely seems like he is out, and she pulls him back in. See, I brought the Godfather thing all the way back around. What did you think about the whole plot line here, the conversation, everything with the Sea Snake?
Loved it. I thought all episode long you saw him struggling for purpose. There's that great shot where he's sitting alone on his throne, and you get that tear, and he's broken and sad, and he lost, kind of what he feels everything that mattered. And you kind of get that throughout the episode. And then this final scene, where she comes and they have that talk, and he's angry initially by the request. I loved his response, but I loved her response even more. She low-key had an incredible episode, Bela did. And her response, basically was better than his, which was, does she not have any end to asking this family? And I think what he realized in the end was, this gives him a sense of purpose and something he can kind of, have his legacy filled now that Reyna's gone. So I thought it was a great choice. He is I believe he is her best ally right now. Look what's happening. They're just starting to feel the pressure of, the port being cut off and not being able to get food and everything imported. That's big. And just from a war strategy standpoint, and now you couple bringing him in and ensuring that ally and that bond remains while working whatever angle you're working with Mysaria throughout the Red Keep, infiltrating from within, and you're already seeing the civil unrest. I really think this is a great strategy, and Rhaenyra is doing what she learned to do, and she's using her mind here. And but back to the scene with Corlys, I thought it was fantastic. I really like this. It's one of my favorite moments, and yes, I think he's the best pick possible.
I mean, Bela's speech was so good. He's like, yo, you want to be the heir to Driftmark?
Yes.
That's how good her speech was.
That's how great her speech was. And what a great answer. I'm of fire and blood. You need somebody of sand and sea. And I thought it was cool because it brought it back a little bit because, he was not beefing with Reyna, but he had an argument about, not accepting needing to name an heir, and she wanted him to. So I thought this was kind of an interesting bring around where he's like, damn, I think he realized for the first time in a while, Bela's the real deal.
Yeah, and what did you think? You had that final scene of him just kind of a shot at the same thing. He's on the throne. He's got the hand pin in his literal hand. You think he's taking the gig or not?
Yeah, I think he is. Once he looked at it and clutched it, I think that was, I'm going to own this. I think he is. And I'm excited for Team Black, dude. They needed this. This is a win. You saw him in the previous episode, a little bit of foreshadowing here. The council's bickering, everyone's fighting. He steps in and everyone kind of calms down and provided that calm presence, and we're going to listen to him. I think his leadership's needed. I really like it for Team Black.
He's got to do something, right? He is not faring well, just kind of moping around the castle and then the docks. And this is a man who needs a purpose. He's always been on one mission or another, basically his whole life. So this is a dude who needs a purpose, and I think maybe this could be it for him.
And maybe a little revenge.
Oh, yeah. Revenge and purpose go hand in hand. I mean, revenge is a purpose. It ends unto its own sometimes. And the other guy we get here, this is a dude who is in the books, but this plot line is, and that's Alfred Broom. He's the dude that kind of bickers with Rhaenyra, at the small council. And he's like, dude, you're smart and everything. I like you. You're really good for a woman. He just can't quite bring himself to, admit that there might be some equality there. And then she eventually sends him off to Harrenhal, more or less to kind of check in on Daemon. And he's kind of shook, right? He's like, wait, why would Daemon like be raising an army for himself? And she's like, you really aren't that smart, are you? So I thought that was kind of a nice little way of showing that, this guy thinks he knows everything, and he doesn't, but he also seems like he is loyal to Rhaenyra. He's just, kind of a prick.
He will not allow, his loyalty, I think, will not be tested here. He does not believe Aegon should be sitting on the Iron Throne. But one thing that I loved about this was how floored he was at the thought that Daemon would do this. And I loved even more the fact that Rhaenyra sniffed it out and she knows that's likely what is happening. Again, she questioned whether or not she was ready, but yet her strength and what she prepared herself may be working out better for her than she ever imagined or realized, because she's smart.
At least she is starting to realize, like, all right, I got to make some moves. She kind of says that to him too. Like, I did make a mistake waiting too long, like waiting on Daemon. I need to be proactive, not reactive, and I think we're seeing that.
If the Scooby-Doo gang rolled up to Harrenhal, how many Scooby snacks is it taken for Shaggy and Scooby to go in there? I mean, based on what we've seen, I think they should hold out for a full box each, right?
Probably 2 boxes for Scooby, and Shaggy gets a Shaggy snack. I think that's when they make like the whatever the 20-decker sandwiches and like tie it up with the rope so it gets real small. And then he just eats it. Like, dude, Harrenhal. I mean, did Harrenhal bring the incest to Daemon, or was it in him the whole time?
Well, I think we should just, I don't know, but HBO, man, every time we think you've pushed the boundary of what could possibly be done with incest, for some crazy reason, nobody's asking you to do it, you continue to push even farther. Mills, this was really uncomfortable to watch. I mean, don't get me wrong. Usually like a HBO sex scenes, like, yeah. But like, no, man, this was brutal. Nobody wants to see Daemon hooking up with his mother, even if it is a hallucination. That is a bad, bad, bad trip, dude. Like you don't want to see somebody going down on their mom. I mean, it's really bad. This is really bad.
All happening in the middle of dinner, basically.
Yes.
This is like it just is more or less, I guess, a waking dream or whatever. We don't quite understand what's going on, but it is extremely weird. And obviously, Daemon has some issues here. He needs to hear his mom also telling him that, he was a favorite son and he should be the true heir. And I think it shows deep down that this is what Daemon wants, but I don't think he really thinks he's actually worthy of it. He's had too many people tell him he's not. I think on some level he does believe it.
Well, and that's fine. And they could have delivered that through a hallucination where he's not passionately making love to his mother and giving
How
her.
long did you need her to say that she was his mother, or did you figure it out before?
Yeah, I had no idea who it was until she started saying you're my favorite son. And then I was like, oh God, that's horrible. Because at first I didn't know if it was really happening or not. I mean, I was pretty sure it was a hallucination, but like it wasn't bad until it got bad. And once it got bad, it was downright horrible. And I showered immediately. It was like horrible watching that, Mills. It was pretty rough.
You had to find an eye wash station?
Yeah.
Going down to the local high school, break it in and tell the cops, sorry, I just need to use the eye wash. That's the only reason I'm here. And we did see he also hallucinated his wife Lena again, so he is kind of all over the place. The main plot thing he's got going on is he's trying to intimidate the Brackens. We saw him setting that up in the previous episode. Dude, shout out the Brackens. They just straight up call his bluff. Like, yeah, I know, we choose fire, go for it. And Daemon doesn't do it. Like, he got outplayed by the Brackens. I gotta love the line that he does give them. The hour is late and my dragon is hungry. You have no choice to submit. That's actually not a quote from the episode. That's taken verbatim from Damon's Tinder bio. And if you think that's fun, we also found Kristen Gold's Tinder bio. I flourish at night and flee before sunrise like a moth. Right there, right in the top of the bio. So
At least they're being, honest about it. They're not hiding.
We don't know if they've matched with each other or not. We don't have that kind of data right now. I thought this was pretty cool overall in the concept because Daemon didn't learn his lesson, right? He got in trouble at King's Landing by, basically getting some bad people, letting him off the chain. What does he do here? He tells them, not in so many words, but basically go do all of the stuff you don't do in war. And oh yeah, try not to, bring my name into it. That's the whole point. I can't be associated with this. Dude, these people go and they, women, children, livestock, churches, they do all the things you're not supposed to do, all the taboo things while flying the Targaryen banner. That's just, dude, Jace is looking a lot more competent than Daemon right now, I would say. At least Daemon's willing to do some work with tools, but all he's got going is manual labor value right now, it seems.
Yeah, he's really struggling here. I mean, this is just a big nothing burger this season out of Daemon, and I think that's kind of the most, he was in a position where you really thought, okay, this could work, and he found himself this whole season. He's kind of just been out on an island, just kind of like battling himself, almost having like a Shining type situation. It's been odd.
I mean, technically, this is probably worth an Atlantis alert because Daemon did what no one thought could be done. He united the Riverland. The Lords of the Riverlands all unite. No one, they said it can't be done. No one can do it. Daemon did it by getting them to unite against him. Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? He did it. It couldn't be done. And he actually did it in the exact way that screwed himself over most optimally. So that's just how much of a role the man is on. I mean, the hair is still great, though. He's definitely out there putting the work in. What did you think about his scene with Alice Rivers?
I thought it was interesting because it's like, is there BE going on? Number one, because, the way she was kind of like treating his hand. My thought is like, bro, put some gloves on if you're really struggling to swing the axe that much. But I like this because she showed wisdom that I didn't necessarily knew she had. And she also had kind of like a condescending, like she's not afraid to kind of like put him in his place, but passive aggressively kind of thing, which I thought was pretty cool too. Call them out, basically.
I don't want to say too much about this, but she does get some great lines when she's talking about all the shit that got done.
This is not war. These are crimes against the innocent that any upright man would repudiate.
Surely you haven't mistaken me for an upright man.
Yeah, Daemon knows who he is a little bit on some level, but this is also where he comes right out. You see him tell it to Simon too, like he wants to be king, not king consort. We can go ahead and lose the consort stuff. He tells Alice Rivers, like, I'm taking the army. I'm going to King's Landing. I'm sitting on the throne. If Rhaenyra wants to sit next to me and rule with me, she can. So is that pretty definitive? Daemon is out for himself, number one, and then also Rhaenyra, if it works out okay, like if it's convenient. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, I think that question's been answered now, right? And they've been, and I'm glad. Let's just shit or get off the pot. They've been toying with it essentially this entire season, and now it's finally there. So I think we answered that question, which is good.
That's a question that we needed an answer to. You know what question I don't need an answer to? How much batshit it takes to make a hallway impassable? I don't want to know. That's
whole lot of guano, dude. Whole lot of guano.
So many I mean, how many bats? I mean, I'd have to know how. That's bad, dude. That's just
too many bats, dude. Too many bats. I don't want to be in there.
I mean, if you own Harrenhal at this point, let's be honest, demo it and start over. Especially, it's on cursed ground. Either move the castle or demo and start. Do anything else. Sleep outside in a tent, maybe. Why is he not sleeping on his dragon?
I don't know. I hope it pays off. I guess probably one of my biggest beefs with this season is just the usage of Daemon. And if this is how it is in the book, it's how it is, and they really can't do anything. But it's just kind of like, it's been disappointing a little bit.
I think it's just a case, too, where you have to pad out the time, or you're going to have to start messing with stuff. And everyone hated that on Game of Thrones when you didn't really, some people would take weeks to travel. Other people seem like they're traveling to places in 10 minutes. So I think, unfortunately, kind of to make the timeline track, some characters just can't do as much if they don't have as much to do in the books, if they can't invent things for them to do, kind of. I like that they're not going all willy-nilly and freestyling too much with it, but I do enjoy the parts that I don't see coming, which are definitely a lot of. They're following the books pretty closely, but they are definitely, putting their own spin on it, remixing a couple things, couple of new twist characters here or there. So definitely enjoy it. And I did think it was a really cool shot. Daemon and Rhaenyra, they both want to prove they can do it without the other one, right? That's kind of one of the big things. And you get the great shot where Daemon goes up to the fireplace, he's going to lean on it with one arm, and then boom, you kind of cut to Rhaenyra doing the mirror image of the exact same thing. I thought that was a great shot to get the idea that maybe they are kind of meant for each other, even if they're not really so simpatico right now. They do seem to at least be, somewhat similar and compatible on a certain level, and probably would be a pretty good war team if they could actually get their shit together.
I wish they could, just because I'm obviously Team Black here all the way, and I just it's depressing that it's like, dude, you realize together you guys got a chance. Separated, you're making it near to impossible. And Damon, you're out on an island so far. I don't know that anybody can even see you anymore.
I don't even know if it's an island. It's just one of those garbage mounds that is floating in the ocean. He's on a bunch of just empty bottles of Mr. Pibb.
So, Mills, cards on the table here. In the book, does Damon have a vision of himself having incest sex with his mother?
That is
no,
not
that's pure. That's pure
that is
HBO.
pure speculation. Again, the books Fire and Blood, especially, are told from like a third person narrative. It's all like a chronicle of history kind of thing. So you're not really inside of people's heads. There's not a lot of straight dialogue. It's all stories told second, third hand, that kind of thing. So we don't know. Honestly, in the books, there's not a lot about what goes on with Damon and Harrenhal. It is kind of a blank slate. So that's, I think, kind of why the show is approaching it the way they are.
Well, I think that about does it. Anything else before we move on?
It sounds kind of minor, but I know it mattered a lot to somebody. When Bela tells Jace, "You're the succession," somebody in the HBO marketing department got their wings. That is just dynamic corporate synergy right there. Also, probably a cool concept for a t-shirt.
And when we talk about TV shows, we enjoy coming up with alternate title episodes. I don't want to throw stones, but Regent is it's a bit on the boring side. Mills, do you have any good alts for us this week?
If you want an honest one, I think just go with "we blew the budget last week." I think that would be, pretty fair and straightforward. If you were going to go with a couple more realistic titles as to what they might use on the show, "The Ways of War," that just sounds kind of cool. "The Mouths of Ghosts," kind of trying to tie a little bit of the Harrenhal stuff in, Rhaenys and people trying to follow her wishes. And then if you were going to have a little bit of fun, "Incest is Coming to Dinner." Jamie G, you got any for us?
I'm trying to process that last one you just gave us.
It's Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, but it's Incest is Coming to Dinner.
For me, I really thought that the a hand is born is pretty cool, or a hand is found. I really like that because you're getting the hand with Corlys. But I thought Dragons in the Ground would have been a cool title, because obviously we lost a dragon, maybe two last week, but then you really kind of get that big reveal that there's two huge dragons under the castle. So I thought that might have been a good one as well.
Ooh, I like that. If I was going to go more serious, "We choose fire." I thought that was a nice line by the Brackens, and that would pretty much work for any episode of House of the Dragon, I think. And, shout out to Damon, and maybe just a little bit of crossover with the boys. How about "Who's the Black Sheep?" Because I think Damon is the black sheep. And one more serious one, "An Upright Man," because Damon is not an upright man.
He most certainly is not. It's time to head out on the award tour. Our first stop is our favorite moment from the region. Oh, Mills, I'm up first here. There was a couple to choose from. One I can tell you definitely is that incest scene. We're not going to go there. I think I'm going to go with the scene between Jace and Rhaenyra, where we learn about the two other dragons, and they kind of hatch this plan of trying to find some riders. I just thought that was great development on both of them. It's kind of a quiet, sneaky thing, but for me, as somebody who hasn't read the books, it was like, oh wow, now I see a path where maybe there's a glimmer of hope for Team Black.
Yeah, that was right near the top of my list too, because as a book reader, I know the implication of that scene is not quite the same as the Dennis Reynolds implication. I'm going to go with something towards the end of the episode. You got those back-to-back shots of one of Corlys on his throne with the hand pin in his hand, and then you cut to Aegon just staring at the Iron Throne, and then you see Helena over his shoulder. I thought that was just a great little moment right there, those two shots together. I thought that was really cool.
Our next stop is the Hot D hierarchy, which are House of the Dragon power rankings. Mills, you're up first here. Who do you have at number 5?
Barely hanging on at the bottom, I am going with Damon at number 5. At least he's out there. He's still doing work, doing manual labor, got a big dragon. he got the Brackens at great cost, but you don't need the Riverland, so he's got that going for him. Jamie G, who do you have at 5?
Oh man. At number 5 for me, I've got to put Aegon. Talk about just barely hanging on. He's just barely hanging on, although it sounded like he might have said mummy at the end of that scene there with him. Maybe he's coming back too. He's still the king, I guess, but yeah, he's definitely been knocked down a peg. Put him at number 5.
We'll see if he can get up again. Jamie G, who do you have at 4?
At number 4, I am going to go ahead and put Damon. He's barely in there, but there's something about it where it's like it's troublesome if you're rooting for Rhaenyra. And I also think he's a big part of the story here because now that, Team Black is identified, they need to figure him out or get rid of him, basically, I think is what it sounds like. So I'm curious to see if that could cause some kind of in-house fighting between Black or if there's still a chance where it could be reunited. So I like the suspense there. I think he's still important, still relevant, but man, he's having a tough season. Got him at number 4.
All right, at number 4, I have Rhaenyra. I think she has stabilized her fall. I don't know if she's ready to be on the upswing yet, but I'm definitely feeling that she is on a good trend and might be moving up going forward. We'll see how she does next week. And then at 3, I think just slightly down from last week is Kristen Cole. Things didn't go great with Alicent this episode, but he is still the hand of the king. I mean, now Aemon's on the king and he's his guy, so the dude is in a pretty good position of power, especially for not having one of them dragons. Jamie G, who do you got at 3?
At 3, I am going to put Alicent. I think she's just, it's unfortunate because she's so close, but yet so far away. And in many ways, I worry about her because I think she's the best possible option, but yet she's going to have to make a tough choice down the stretch here. And she keeps battling this choice, right? Did I do the right thing? Is this right for the realm? I do believe in her heart of hearts, she wants to do what's right for the realm, but I think that's going to become more evident to her over family here down the stretch. So I worry for her, but I've got Alicent at 3. Number 2, I have Rhaenyra. I think she's kind of balanced the storm here, and I'm liking her plan moving forward. She's kind of dealt with the worst of it. It's like you go to an away game and you deal with their rally for the first quarter, you survive it, and it's like, okay, now we can get down to playing football. I think she's kind of at that place.
All right, at number 2, biggest riser this week for me, from unranked to number 2, I have Jace. I mean, dude's on fire. I don't know. You can't take anything away from him at this point. He's got a dragon. He's out there making alliances. He's making moves. He's doing what he's got to do. He's seeming very princely and all that good stuff. So feeling very confident in my man Jace at number 2. And at number 1, I mean, you got to stick with Aemond. He's increased in power since the last episode. So I don't know how you could go any other way. And I'm assuming you have good old One Eye at your number 1 as well.
Sadly, I do. I cannot wait till he's no longer up there. Can't stand him. I hate the way he looks. I hate everything about him. But yes, he is still up there.
His actual name is Aegon Can't Stand You, so that makes a lot of sense. That tracks. And to recap, for me, at 5, I had Daemon, 4, Rhaenyra, 3, Kristen Cole, 2, Jace, 1, Aemon. Jamie G, at number 5, he had Aegon 2, number 4, Daemon, number 3, Alicent, number 2, Rhaenyra, and number 1, One Eye Aemond.
Next, we need to hand out our episode MVP. Got to give it up. It's our MVP awards for this one, the Regent. Mills, I'm up first here. It was runner up, was so good, I got to mention it, and that's Bela. But my episode MVP was Jace.
I am also going with Jace. I think that's a pretty clear one. And I would probably also go with Bela as my number 2. I think they had a great episode. And, and shout out to Alicent, too. I feel bad she just didn't have a lot of good stuff going on, but maybe gets the absolute best acting of the episode. So, again, good episode, like all the performance and everything. Just, had a lot of work to do story-wise.
No doubt. Well, the final stop on the award tour is our episode grades. We grade each episode of House of the Dragon on a scale of 0 to 100 flagons of ale. We take one down, we pass it around. Mills, how many flagons of ale are you filling up for Regent, episode 5, season 2, House of the Dragon?
Been all over the place on this one. I don't know how much you have to knock an episode for son mother incest. I don't really know. There's been no scale set for that. We're in a land without a precedent here. I'm just going to kind of play it safe. Give me 85 Flagons of Ale. It probably my least favorite episode of the season so far, but not a bad episode by any stretch. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm right there in that universe too. I think my lowest ranked episode so far was 89. I'm going to drop this one down to 86. Flagons of Ale. Good episode, but it just coming off such a heater of the last one and just pure moving the storyline around. It wasn't that it was boring or a disappointment, but it was going to be hard to live up to the last episode anyways. Enjoyed it. Like it. It's not a bad episode at all. It's just probably my least favorite of all of them. Just because it was just pure kind of like, hey, we got to get all this shit done so we can hit the final stretch of 3 episodes and end with some massive heaters. So I think I'm most excited about that.
Yeah, a little bit of a victim of circumstance. And get ready, give your crystal balls a tug because it's time to give our predictions for episode 6 and the remainder of the season. Once again, remember, I have read Fire and Blood, but I'm going to be careful not to spoil anything based on the books. We have both seen the episode 6 preview, so we will be spoiling that as well. All right, let me ask maybe an obvious question up front. And again, you're going to kind of have to carry us a little bit here because I'm not going to be able to comment on a lot of this stuff. Do you think someone will successfully claim a dragon next week?
Next week, no, but this season, yes.
And how many? They mentioned 2 dragons. Do you think they both get claimed, or they only find 1 dragon?
I think 1 out of the 2 this season.
And we saw in the teaser here, Aemon, going up to Aegon on his, I was going to call it a hospital bed, but his medical bed, his bed, whatever you want to call it. What do you think's going on there? Is there any chance that Aemon would try to finish off the job, or is he going to be kind of content to let Aegon, kind of hang out at death's door for a while?
I think he's content. Look, unless you start to see him getting better and there's a threat that pulls him away from total control, which is what he wants, I think he's just going to kind of let him suffer and go about his business.
Okay. How about Alicent? What is her next move here? Is she going to try to, go after Aemon? We saw a scene with those 2 in the trailer. Does she try to get Otto back in the mix? Where does Alicent go from here?
I think Alicent's really in a tough spot here, Mills. I think she's going to try to reason with Aemon, B, realize that's a failed strategy, C, I think this is our chance to get Otto back because she needs help. She's overwhelmed. This council's terrible. She knows everything's about to go up in flames, literally and figuratively.
Okay. How about Daemon? Where does he go from here? He kind of botched it with the other lords in the Riverlands. What do you think his next move here? Is he just going to sit at Harrenhal and kind of keep waiting it out, or is he going to go out there and try to take action somehow?
I think he's going to be there long enough for the bull from Dragonstone to get there, right? And I think they're going to have a little spat. And I think that's going to force him into doing something, knowing that, like, hey, Rhaenyra and Dragonstone and that whole thing hasn't forgotten about you. You either got to do, join us or go off on your own and then deal with them as they try to stop you too.
Do you think he just gives him a message and sends him back to Rhaenyra, or do you think he just kills him?
Likely kills him, but I'm not sure. I think it's more likely that he's going to die than he's going to come back safely to Dragonstone.
Do you think we're going to get any kind of answer for these visions, hallucinations that Daemon is having, or is it just going to be like, oh, that's just Harrenhal stuff?
Sadly, it's just going to be like, yeah, that's what happens in Harrenhal. It's weird because I don't know if it's happening to all the other people there. I know there's a small group of people, but it's like, are they having this too? Or is it just, it's already gotten them and they've worked through it and that's why
you'd ask, right? That'd be the kind of thing to say. Any of you kind of randomly waking up covered in blood?
Right.
Like, have you seen your parents naked? Just throwing it out there. Just kind of want to see how everyone else is feeling. We get any further word on Sunfire, Aegon's dragon, or is he just gonna kind of be out in the unknown?
I think we have to get some sort of resolution on it. I really do. I mean, they've done a good job of kind of like throughout the season telling us which side has how many dragons, et cetera, et cetera. I think we either find out that Sunfire's fine and they want to do what Team Black is doing and get a new rider for it while Aegon's down, or we find out that Sunfire is set and is not going to make it. I think we have to kind of know that one way or the other, though.
So what do you think happens first? Aegon, excuse me. What do you think happens first? Aemon takes off with Vhagar to go try to do some shit, leaving from King's Landing, or Rhaenyra gets on her dragon and she goes out to do something? Who do you think, which leader goes out there into the field first?
Ironically enough, I think it's gonna be Aemond, even though that they just lost, a leader. I just don't think, I know that Vhagar's tired and needs to rest and feed, and there's not a ton of food for him. And my understanding is it's not like we can just take the dragons out every single day and put them into war. So, I don't know how long the timeline is and if that's a day, a week, a month, and what that means in House of Dragon, universe. But I think ultimately, I think it'll be Aemond.
There's plenty of starving people he could eat, right? That's one way to solve two birds with one stone kind of deal right there, I think. Yep, you don't have enough food, just eat some people. Well, you don't need as much food. Right? How hard is this stuff? We can figure that out. Will we see the phrase again? Was that it? Or was that just our appearance for the phrase, or will they be a kind of a running factor?
Think that's probably it for the phrase. I would like to see something with them. Wouldn't totally shock me if the Greybeards get down there and they try to double cross them. That wouldn't totally surprise me, and that would be another way to see him. But I think for this season, that's probably it. That's all we're getting. Mills, quick question for you. Do you think that the King's Landing gets so desperate that they decide to give the people dragon meat to eat from Meleys?
I don't think so. I mean,
Could you eat dragon?
I don't know. I'd have to ask Charlie.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that was one of his, wasn't on Family Fight. I think he did say that he would like to eat some dragon. As far as the Starks, you think we're getting those Greybeards in the next episode? Are they finally arriving, or are they still kind of just still coming?
I think it's a slow still coming. I don't think we get them till the final episode of the season. And I think that leads into kind of the high point heading into next season.
Will we get Cregan Stark again, or just kind of the Greybeards without him?
I don't think we get him. I think he's at the wall.
All right. And when do we finally see Otto again?
I think we get to see Otto. I think we get to see Otto this next episode. I think Alicent's goes back to that one thing. And I think we see him. Hopefully we get a shot of him in his home castle. That would be cool to kind of go over there and see that.
I would like that. And will Kristen Cole cut his hair again this season?
No, I think he's going to keep that, but he will polish his sword one more time.
The man likes to polish his sword. Let's just put it that way.
Keeps it clean.
In the sheath, out of the sheath, doesn't matter. Dude's polishing.
Well, that about does it. Thank you guys for checking out another episode of House of the Dragon, brought to you by Flagons and Dragons. We really love doing this. We love the show. It's great to talk to you about it. Let us know what you liked about this episode, what you're looking most forward to. Give me your best prediction. Coming down the stretch, there's only 3 episodes left. You can drop a comment below, but only after you've given us the thumb and liked and subscribed to this content. But what my preference would be is to you to become your own dragon rider, and you hop on your dragon and you fly right into these DMs and you let me respond there, because every day I go and I check, you're not in there. Get in there, fly right in. Mills will let you know where to find us.
Yes, sirree, Bob. Thank you very much for checking out Flagons and Dragons, presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff. Thank you for remembering that. Just like them flaps, follow, like, and please subscribe. FLAPS. That is the key to our success. Like the man said, if you had fun, hit the thumb, do the sliding, the flying, all the dragoning things, everything you got to do to help us out and to get through another episode of House of the Dragon. I'm Magna Mills. He's Jamie G. That's it. That was the show. Be back to do it again next week. Holla holla.
Our flagons are empty, but we've got a guy in King's Landing, so they'll be full when we meet again. Got a guy. Got a flagon guy.
So full.